get upset on the internet.
Hi everybody and welcome to Retro Station 1989. I'm Commander Dan, the commander and lone human inhabitant aboard the Retro Station. And this is License to Play, a show where we evaluate old retro games that were based on licensed materials. Things like comic books, movies, video games from the arcade, fast food mascots. We did Soda Pop last week. Anyway, if it's retro and it was based on a licensed property, we evaluate it to see if it has a license to play. And this week...
Commander Dan, I have finished my triangulation of those random hostile messages and determined it was indeed from the Vega cluster. And there is a craft making its way here for an unknown purpose.
Heavy. Well, what do we have for defenses aboard the Retro Station? Now that we're talking serious.
Calculating. If we jettison the reconstituting tanks, we could potentially launch a backup waste cell at them.
And that would do what?
It would cover their hull in your pre-reconstituted feces and urine.
So, you're saying we'll shoot a deuce rocket at them? That's very on brand.
Thank you, Commander.
And what about damage? Is it also secretly some kind of detonation material? Some kind of, like, my turnip poos will eat through their hull like molecular acid?
Negative, Commander. It would be a symbolic victory only.
That sounds even more on brand. So is there no avoiding a scuffle with these people?
I'll keep trying to hail them on comms, Commander, and it wouldn't be a scuffle. It would be more like a total annihilation.
Sure, sounds fine. Well, today's evaluation may be our last, so let's jump into the context part of the evaluation and talk about two of my favorite subjects, movies and the 80s, y'all. From the music to the fashion to the video games and movies, the 80s were just over-the-top, explosive, and goofy. It was a great time to be a kid, but it only seemed that way because exploiting the desires of the young was becoming an untapped marketplace. Some might say that it was that kind of toxic capitalism that brought us to where we are today, insofar as kids are abominable jagoffs by the time they're 10 years old. But those people probably never went to a Chuck E. Cheese or stared into the soulless abyss of the Rock-afire Robot Murder Band. Fun fact, my friend Bubba Wilson was the voice of the gorilla in the band who sounded like Elvis. No lie. And another friend of mine wrote some of the songs. But the 80s had movies, and the first movie I ever saw before I was supposed to be able to was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now, I'm not going to suggest that sneaking into a movie was a good or right thing to do. I'm going to explicitly tell kids, if you want to see a PG-13 movie, sneak in after the trailers roll. Fight the power. In 1989, the year of our Retro Station, a sci-fi comedy was released, and it changed everything. And guess what? It was PG. The movie? The one and only, first of the trilogy and greatest of its name, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. This movie I saw in the theater about 5 times after a kid in my class named Scott, who looked like Scott Farkus's little henchman in A Christmas Story, but he was a greasebag hesher with a Motley Crue jean jacket, told me there was a movie better than Back to the Future starring the dudes from Lost Boys and some other guy. And I'm like, what? I gotta see this. So, the movie's pretty funny, if a little coarse when it comes to problematic language, so be forewarned, the 80s were a pretty callous time, and it was acceptable back then to say pretty hot topic words. The Bill in this flick is Bill S. Preston Esquire, and the Ted is Ted Theodore Logan. What's up, gnarly space dude? Unfrickin' believable. Hey Ted, what's up? Well, dude, I've come to warn you about the future. It's most gnarly, bro, and it has very serious dude, it's gonna mess up everything. Huh. And what happens that's so bad it messes up the quote-unquote future? Well, righteous space dude, your most excellent space station gets knocked out of orbit and lands in San Dimas, crushing mine and Bill's houses, and also killing you in the process. I mean, that is bogus, right? What? I mean, yes, of course. Whoa, this is heavy. How in the hell am I supposed to prevent getting kicked out of orbit, Mr. Logan? And are you in a phone booth? It's totally a time-traveling phone booth. Doctor Who uses one. And I mean, come on, Rufus gave it to us to use on a loaner, so it's pretty sweet, I think. Even though, ironically, this is speaking of my future, and it's actually the past from where I am, and it's your present, and whoa, my mind is like blown, dude. Like dust in the wind. Ted. May I call you Ted? Totally, dude! Ted, how in the hell, Virginia, could I stop anything knocking us out of orbit, much less a vegan alien spaceship bristling with grunge lasers and kiloblast disintegrators? Not to worry, gnarly space dude. Rufus has given me the secret sauce. Which is? Dude, it's a secret. Of course it is. Margot.
Yes, Commander?
We're doomed, right?
Yes, Commander.
So, Ted, what do I need to do to prevent my imminent demise and the destruction of the quote-unquote future? Don't worry about a thing, future dude. Just do your evaluation as normal and I'll take care of everything else. Okay, well, I was meaning to ask. Where's Bill? Oh, Bill's not here, dude. He had to work with Station on the ethereal plane, which, contrary to my understanding, isn't actually an airplane, dude. No. Well, let's take a look at the license before I'm splattered across the San Dimas landscape, and I guess Bill and Ted's kids' houses and their houses, so yeah, let's go. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is a comedy from the minds of Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, who wrote all three Bill and Ted flicks and Men in Black, and with inspirations from Alex Winter, one of my heroes and inspirations for making a show at all. And it's a perfect encapsulation of the Valley in the late 80s, as I understand it, from friends who grew up in Cali. When the movie came out, my brother and sister and I must have seen this movie like 6 or 7 times in the theater. Like I said, the comedy of a pair of time-traveling valley dudes, the misadventures of Napoleon dealing with modern life and becoming a Ziggy Piggy, it was all just so damn funny. The movie has 2 sequels that came at big turning points in my life, honestly. Bogus Journey came out in 91, just as our family made a huge move to Florida, and I was starting a new high school and was really kind of bummed out. Great relief and escapism there. And Face the Music came out about 2 years ago. And I gotta say, I really liked the flicks that came after, but that first one, with George Carlin, it was just so cool. The movie spawned a great cartoon, for the first season anyway, where they used Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter's actual voices, and an ill-conceived live-action TV show, which was terrible. The license was on lunchboxes, comic books, and toys, and of course, video games.
Commander, I have hailed the approaching craft and they would like to speak with you.
Okay. On screen, I guess.
Is this a Retro Station 1989? The place where they do evaluations of old retro games in case the planet might be liquidated?
It is, and hey, I know you.
That's right. I'm Bluff. You know, from Five Guys, 2 Aliens, and an Android. You ordered a bunch of food from us a long time ago. And it's payback time.
Oh yeah? Well, I've learned that this galaxy is bigger than anyone can imagine. I bet the afterlife is even bigger. So do your worst. Whoa, dude. Sorry I'm late. I had some bogus things to take care of in the future with the president, and you know what? I better not tell you. Anyway, hey there, space dude. I'm Ted Theodore Logan of Wild Stallions.
Oh my glob. Where's Bill? Where are the kids? I love you guys. You're the best. Your song changed my life.
Righteous, my canine alien dude. And the message was straight from the heart. And it is in that spirit of friendship that I come to you now and ask you, please, do not disintegrate the gnarly spaceman aboard the Retro Station 1989.
Disintegrate? No, it's payback time. For the Yelp review you guys left us, for the salad and the shake and the fries? Yeah, my boss wanted to give you something nice. That's pretty crazy, right?
Whoa, then you totally weren't going to knock them out of orbit, crashing into San Dimas?
Well, I'm not going to now.
Wait, you were going to?
Well, I'm not going to now. Anyway, now that I know that you're down with the Wild Stallions, I can never do anything bad to you guys. You knuckleheads.
Excellent!
Oh, and one more thing. Could you do me a favor?
Sure, Blarth, name it.
Could you not do all of this anymore?
All what?
Well, you know, being on Cambot, you know, talking into the camera, looking into the camera, and being on camera. Basically, none of that.
Well, if I don't do all this, Planet X will shut off my oxygen and liquidate my planet, so No, I can't.
I mean, the evaluating is fine. I love that. But having to look at you is off-putting. Frankly, it's gross. And believe me, I know from gross. I have to clean my genitals with my tongue. Can you imagine what that tastes like?
I absolutely will not imagine that. Thank you very much. Any other suggestions that won't get me killed or earth destroyed?
Get better lighting.
Well, I already did. Well, Ted, did that stop the future from getting destroyed? I mean, these coupons are, as you'd say, most excellent. It looks like all the time spheres and tubes and everything in the circuits of time is back to normal. Looks like I did my job pretty well. You're welcome. Catch you later, snarly space dude. For what? You really didn't do anything. Alright, Margot. Let's block future communications from anyone not the sponsors or Planet X. If we're to be destroyed, I'd rather it be a surprise from now on.
Yes, Commander, will do.
So, we avoided a little disaster there, but will our heroes Bill and Ted avoid the disaster of being in an LJN title? Let's take a look at the games based on Bill and Ted before we get to the serious evaluating. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure was a runaway success. Well, for a sci-fi comedy anyway. It made $40 million in box office on a $10 million budget, which is a big success for a comedy. And when you get success in the PG comedy sci-fi world, you also get licensed video games. Bill and Ted had a few games in its tenure as a license. The first film spawned an NES game, a Game Boy title, a PC adventure game, and a game for the Commodore 64 that looked like a test for epilepsy gone wrong. Capstone's adventure games were basically point-and-click style adventure games, like Sierra Online's King's Quest and Space Quest. The MS-DOS version is colorful and engaging, but not too terribly difficult, and presents its puzzles in a fairly straightforward manner. Meanwhile, the game for the Commodore 64 is the same game, just dumbed down a little for the lower-powered machine, and it's got eye poison for loading graphics. I don't know why the Commodore did this with some of their games, but hey, we're here to look at the Nintendo game. And before we do, let's take a peek at the Game Boy version. The version for Game Boy pits Bill and Ted against what appear to be clones of Abraham Lincoln and Bluto across time and space, and wait, this is just Bugs Bunny Crazy Castles type stuff. Oh my gosh. This gameplay style was outdated before this game even came out, and folks, this game isn't helped by that at all. Also, the Game Boy game uses the cartoons aesthetic to get its point across. And that point is, don't get this game on Game Boy because it's boring and terrible. The reason I do this show, honestly, was inspired by Cygnus Destroyer's LJN Defender character. That show and channel are great. Check them out. There's a link down below. So the game was developed by LJN and for LJN by Rocket Science Productions, and had a middle-of-the-road response when it finally came out for the NES. Even Nintendo Power gave it a 3.5 out of 5, in a time when LJN was basically bulletproof in the pages of our favorite video game shill mag. A magazine I happen to have right here. And it says, fans of Bill and Ted will like it for the Bill and Ted of it all, but it isn't easy finding items, which means you'll spend ages wandering around, and that's frustrating. And that's Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure in a nutshell. And it's a good thing I had this magazine, because when I first got the game back in the day, you'll see. It may be an excellent adventure, but it is not an easy adventure by any means. Let's dive into the evaluation. Let's begin with the game's instruction manual. Normal manuals for the Nintendo Entertainment System games are formatted this way, landscape, and are generally 12 to 15 pages of basic controls, enemy listings, and very rudimentary tips and tricks for play. A personal favorite of mine is when they tell you to have fun. Now look at this beast for the Bill and Ted game. 23 pages with 2 extra pages of note-taking areas for the mysteries of the game, and this thing has maps for all 5 time zones and a mini example of play that would make the 5th edition Player's Handbook of D&D proud. So this doesn't bode well, to be honest, because when a game has this much information required at the front end to play the game, yeah, for such a simple system as a Nintendo, frustrating doesn't quite cover how people will react to it. I get asked a lot, hey, so-and-so reviewed this game already. Why are you reviewing it? Well, it's like The Simpsons did an episode of South Park. Yeah, I know people reviewed these things, and this game especially. AVGN's review of this is full of vitriol and hilarious ranting, but he doesn't have the same point of view as me regarding this title. especially because how we both played the game may be similar, but our enjoyment may be completely different because I'm older than that dude, and I took the time to read the manual and the Nintendo Power. But anyway, let's talk turkey here and explain the game. The manual is required reading, or at least required skimming, if you want to get a grip on what's going on in this game. So, the story is a bunch of historical dudes and babes, that's the game's term, are displaced throughout the 5 major time areas of history, from Marilyn Monroe to Robin Hood to Al Capone and Jesse James. The goal is pretty similar to the MS-DOS and C64 versions of the title. You need to bring the correct historical item to tempt the dude or babe to their own time. All you need to do is wander each level, talking with people in the buildings for a clue as to where the historical dude babe bait would be. And then, the game became virtually unplayable at that point. Basically, without Nintendo Power or some kind of walkthrough, and I'm not kidding, the bait that you have to find is hinted at and must be jumped on exactly where they're hidden. And they're invisible. So, if you, like myself and the angry video game nerd, rented this game at the time it was out, you may be behind the 8 ball from Jump Street and hate this game with a passion today. I know I had that happen with me and the Three Stooges, so I don't blame you if that's your mood here. But let's take a look at how the game is played and plays out, and other good things about it before we lower the boom on this hard game. The gameplay primarily takes place on an isometric playfield map representing one of 5 time periods: medieval, western, U.S. Revolutionary, modern, and ancient, which is ostensibly Egyptian world. The maps included here in the manual give you a little clue as to where to go in terms of, here are buildings, this is where the horse is, but that's about it. Running and jumping are pretty intuitive until you land on grass outside of the fully grassy areas, or sand if the level is sandy. You drop to your ass and stop moving altogether. And you're being pursued by guards, police, natives, etc. as you go through, and you have an inventory of stuff called good stuff to toss at these heathens to keep them off your back while you roam around their time period asking questions as to where the invisible item you need to jump on is. Ultimately, while that's pretty good and the license is met really well, the humor in the game's pretty good if a little overbearing, but ultimately, because of the hidden bonus thing, it's long, the game is tedious, and when it comes time to find those historical bait items, that's when the game becomes a frustrating mire of busy work and nonsense. If the game would have dealt with this aspect like literally any other game, Zelda, Metroid, anything, the items are hidden, sure, but exist in the level so you could at least find them, or even stumble across them. This game would be an easy slam dunk for this licensed game. The evaluation would be over and we'd all go to bed happy, knowing that our boys Bill and Ted were well taken care of. But as it stands, we've got a serious question here, my dudes. And that question? So, does Bill and Ted's excellent video game adventure have a license to play? If you're a fan of Bill and Ted, you know what? No, it doesn't, actually. I'm a fan of Bill and Ted. I'm sure you can tell by the video that I made here, but the game is just too difficult and too time-consuming and unfair out of the box that it doesn't matter if you grab the manual, a Nintendo Power for crying out loud. If you have anything, you can probably have somebody who's played it before sit with you and tell you how to play it. Or play it on a stream and have the chat tell you backseating a whole way where to jump, and it still wouldn't be all that fun. It's got a lot of seeds of good things, it's got a lot of parts from better games, but they're better games, and you're better off playing something like Zelda, or Zelda Link to the Past, or hell, I don't know, throwing rocks at a wall until the paint chips off. At any rate, sorry Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but your bogus tape makes me not want to play my Nintendo anymore. So that's enough of that one. No license to play for you. Now, thanks everybody who's been tuning in and signing on and letting me know what you think. I especially want to thank Shishka Barbarian. Well, actually, I guess I'll give him a sort of screenwriting credit for being inspiration for part of this video. He knows which part. Or she knows which part. I don't know. Shishka Barbarian sounds like a dude name to me, so whatever. But anyway, if you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up. Shishka Barbarian did, even though they didn't particularly like the things that I'm doing right now. But anyway, if you like it, then subscribe. And if you subscribe, hit the bell so you know when I'm putting up new episodes. Episodes should be up weekly, maybe week and a halfly. I don't even know what that is, perennially. they're coming out, and I'm streaming almost every day over at RetroStation 1989 on Twitch. And right now we're playing The Last of Us, so that'll date this video a little bit. But hey, jump on over. And I'm going to jump ahead through some boring parts of Last of Us, so don't worry. You're not going to have to watch a bunch of scrounging for items and all that other stuff. Basically, I'm just going to hit the high points of the plot. So, with all that said, remember, no matter what I've said during this broadcast about this game, or past broadcasts about any other game, remember to always, 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 always stay retro. Peace.
Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. Throwing out a hissy fit, your views ain't in the millions, and every up and comer is a threat to what you're dealing. And instead of getting better, you just spout up on your Facebook, crying on your Twitter bit about how bad your case look. In case you didn't get it yet, allow me to rephrase it. You cry more than my 4-year-old, I'm actually amazed. Like you couldn't even see the forest for the trees. The writing's on the wall, literally there to see. How you getting salted, a culture blowing up, man? I think there was a point where you started growing up, man. Instead of showing up, man, irrationally mad. Don't appropriate impression like the latest fashion fad. It isn't cool or funny to be acting like an edgelord. You alienate friends, pushing closer to the edge more. I don't know how to say it anyway to make it clear. If you're the one unhappy, then the problem's in the mirror. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. The net is a repository for the vast expanses of